Okay, so I don't even know what week it is. I probably should have looked that up.
This is the 6th week.
Is it?
Yes,
Hold on.
it's 6. Yeah, it's
Okay.
week number 6.
Okay, we'll just say movie number 6.
What?
Okay.
Why have you not invited me until this point? I
Sorry.
thought this was a first time.
Oh no,
No, yeah.
this is an ongoing
Well,
thing.
I'm disgusted.
Yeah, I mean, you're our first guest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll take that. I better be
First guest.
reoccurring.
Yeah, I mean,
Guest
this okay.
appearance.
Okay, so this does go up on my YouTube channel, but
Cool.
nobody watches it. But if you want to plug
I
your
do.
YouTube channel or anything, Mallory, please go ahead.
Mine is Mallory's Place, I think is what my YouTube channel is called.
Okay.
And I have some stuff on there that's really shitty that I need to take down. But
Good.
I don't know. I agree. Sometimes it's good to leave up stuff that you know is shitty of you just to see the growth.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely.
but yeah, that's it.
Definitely.
Mallory's Place, Mallory.
Okay, cool. And this is for all you viewers out there, all 0 of you. This is
Stop.
our sister, Mallory.
My last
And-
name's Johnson now because I'm married.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And our movie this week was my pick, and I did Terry Gilliam's 1985 film Brazil.
So is he at the end of the film? Is he the old man who walks out with the guy in the wheelchair at the end? Is that the actor Terry Gilliam?
No,
Who did he play in the movie?
That's
Good
Michael
question.
Palin. Are you
That
talking
was
about the guy?
Palin.
Yeah,
Okay.
that
Palin
was
is
Michael
Jack.
I
Yeah,
recognized him
yeah.
from Monty Python,
Jack
but I didn't
Lemmon.
know which one he was.
Terry
Right.
Gilliam doesn't show up in this film.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. When you look up the cast, it shows up Terry Gilliam, but he doesn't have a name in the movie. He's
Interesting.
a
Oh,
director.
He may be
maybe
an
he's like a
extra.
background.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
may be an extra somewhere.
I didn't catch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what did we think?
Do you want to start like with whoever? Like last
Just
time?
anybody.
Well, I guess I'll start us off. I loved it. As expected, I've out of all of Terry Gilliam's movies, there's not a single one that I cannot say that I have not at least enjoyed. They're all excellent. 12 Monkeys.
That's a good jumping point. What Terry Gilliam
Oh.
movies have you guys seen? Let's say okay, well we can go include the Python films if you
Right, we'll
haven't
include-
seen many Python films.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, including the Python films, I have seen 12 Monkeys, and I believe there was one other movie, but
He did Time Bandits.
I have not seen Time Bandits.
I heard these are connected possibly, but that
Time Bandits and
Yeah.
Brazil. Yeah, in like the sense that it's kind of like his imagination trilogy or whatever.
Right.
Whatever. So,
Fantasy.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah, there
Yeah.
is like a connection there. I think he's actually come out and talked about that. But
yeah, but those are the only movies I've seen so far. I don't think I've seen much else by him, even though I should.
yeah, he's got some great movies. Fear and Loathing is fantastic. Time Bandits is great. He did a movie called The Misadventures of Baron Munchausen, which is like kind of like the end, like what Mallory was talking about. Baron Munchausen's like the third in the trilogy of like the imagination, because it's always like very surrealist influence, which a lot of his movies are. But yeah, it kind of like caps that off, and I think it also came out in the 80s. And so you had like Time Bandits 81, Brazil 85, and then Baron Munchausen was like 88, I think. So
Okay.
I saw 12 Monkeys when I was like 11. I wasn't
Yeah.
allowed to. Dad told
Yeah.
me I couldn't see it, and then I snuck it when I was really little with, I think that's Brad Pitt.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
and
it
Bruce
messed with
Willis.
me a lot. Yeah, it really messed with me. But then I've just seen Monty Python and this one.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've owned 12 Monkeys. I actually put that on my to buy list next time I'm at Movie Trader to try to find it. But 'cause
didn't even
I
know
remember
that was
enjoying
him.
it. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. He's still making movies. He made a movie with Adam Driver, came out last year. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, the ones that I have seen are Liz, of course. Then 12 Monkeys and Time Bandits are the only other two that I remember.
And Monty Python, obviously.
And yeah, of course, the Monty Python movies, Holy Grail, of course. Yeah, but that's about it. But yeah, I didn't realize he did 12 Monkeys. It's kind of strange.
Yeah,
It's
that
like,
surprises me too.
yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, now that you guys have seen Brazil, if you revisit 12 Monkeys, you'll see
A lot of it.
clear
Yeah, sure,
like influence
sure.
between the two.
The zaniness
Because
of it.
12 Monkeys is like the next dystopian movie
Yeah.
he did in a way.
Mm.
And then like the third one would arguably be the movie that he did with Christoph Waltz in 2017 called 2016 Zero Theorem, which is like super low budget and dystopian and kind of like Blade Runner. But anyway, back on track. So Brazil, this was I think everybody's first time watching it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
My
Yeah,
first
I-
time.
I,
yeah.
I watched it 15 minutes ago.
Good.
So
And
I'm still
It's fresh.
digesting. all
it's
of
still in
it.
your mind, fresh, very
Yeah.
fresh.
It is.
That's a lot to
It is.
digest.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I wanted to pick a movie. I think it's the first movie in our watch list that none of us have seen. So
Yeah, I think
I
so.
wanted to do that. Yeah, I loved it. I mean, obviously, I have a few things I'm kind of like, but we'll get to that. But yeah, loved it. Matthew.
Yeah, this was a really interesting movie. I mean, I would say out of the 6 we've done so far, which I know that's not a whole lot, but still, it's probably the most it's one I went into with the least amount of knowledge, because I knew nothing going into this movie. And that was kind of intentional because
Me too,
even the one
mostly.
even the one you recommended last time, I still don't, Happy
Time.
Time, Good Time.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah, even that one I knew
So
more
good.
about it than this one going in.
Yeah.
But this one, totally cold turkey. But yeah, I enjoyed it. And like you will, I think I'll have a couple things to say, but overall,
Yeah, I didn't know much about it. I just knew it was like considered one of his best films.
Yeah.
Now,
Mm.
like when it came out, it met pretty lukewarm reviews and it bombed at the box office, which is actually true for about half of his movies. But
Mm.
yeah, no. Mallory, what'd you think?
I thought so. Jake watched it with me too.
Oh, good. Oh, he
And-
should just be doing this with us.
It was just so. I haven't seen. So I've stopped watching movies for a while,
Mhm.
just on personal reasons. But this is like making me want to start watching movies again. It was
That's good.
so good.
Yeah.
So good.
It was
Yeah.
so good.
The sets. Jake couldn't stop commenting on the sets.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, and I looked at him at one point and I was like, this reminds me of Blade Runner, like the
Mhm.
first Blade
Mhm.
Runner sets.
Yeah.
Same-
They're
yeah.
obviously not as, that's Ridley, isn't it? Who did
Yeah,
Blade
that's
Runner?
really,
They're not as high budget, it seems, as those, but like the staircases that you see, the way some of the architecture is, like,
Mhm.
The
it was
fogginess,
like,
the dirty city.
yes.
How boxy everything is.
Mhm.
And it was just so like you didn't want to if you took your eyes off you would miss something. So I
Mhm.
loved how many, like, all the propaganda, dark comedic posters
Yeah.
hanging around, like
Yeah.
the one that was like suspicion builds confidence.
Yeah.
Like so funny to me. Like I was
Mhm.
cracked because that's like a relationship thing, and like
Mhm.
all of that stuff was so funny. But it was that I thought the acting was really good. The commentary on appearance and like cosmetics was really good.
Right,
The
And
production value's out and just insane for
it was
for the budget. Yeah.
Yeah, and some of the stuff they were doing with the faces reminded me of 12 Monkeys.
Mhm.
Just like the pulling of the flesh and all that, like the torture stuff
Mhm.
reminded me of that. But it was really, really good.
He definitely has like this knack, Terry Gilliam, for like creating images that are like hilarious, but like when you start to think about it, it's also like incredibly like disturbing and like
Terrifying.
like yeah, when he walks in, like and his mom is getting
The
her
face.
Like the cheeks are like being like
Unsettling.
and it's so
Yeah.
like it's so weird and creepy, but then they like cap it off with him like wrapping the cling wrap around her face.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then like they're her and the other woman are having conversations about whether to go to the acid man or the pulling man. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
but it's so funny, but it's also super dark. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's such a wonderful blend of both of those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
But
I
yeah.
loved how like the doctor who kept ruining the other lady's face.
Oh God,
I love how
I
his
know,
name
that's
was
what I'm
Dr.
saying.
Chapman. I thought that was pretty funny.
It
I
That was
just
forget
probably
about
a
it.
tribute to what's his face? Who's the
Graham Chapman.
Graham
It
Chapman.
may have been. I didn't even
Yeah.
know.
That's actually
There's a
probably true. I didn't even think about
possibility.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought that actually all that commentary was really disturbing to me because, like, as a woman seeing that,
Mhm.
the things you see women willing to do for appearance and to
Yeah.
keep up with what's trendy, like such a random fact, but 1 in 3,000 women die from butt fillers. So
Wow.
1
Oh
in
my
3,000.
gosh.
That's catastrophic. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Mm.
But I'm watching this movie and it didn't seem far-fetched to me at all. It was just like, well, women are willing to butcher themselves to try and maintain youthfulness or attraction to the other men, and they're willing to die for it. And like the fact that she kept being like, oh, it'll get better, like the pain you're willing to put up with, that just was, that hit home for me. I was like, man, I know women, or I myself have been tempted by the desire to get something drastic and torturous done to myself just to get the young men to circle around me the way his mom had it. Had all those men around her at the end, and she didn't even want to be a mother anymore. She was just like, stop, like, look at me, I finally am getting what I wanted. And I was just like, this is I mean, it felt real to me. So like that, seeing all those shots of that woman like slowly her body just like wasting away, I was just like, oh, this is too real.
And it just literally just ends with her being dead.
The flesh,
her funeral, like
oh god.
Yeah, there's I watched like the first 30-40 minutes of the director's commentary because on the Criterion Collection with Gilliam, and I mean that's what you're saying is basically his intentions. Like he basically was like, every scene he's like, this is why I did this, because society's doing this. This is why I did this, because society's doing this.
I love it.
And I liked it too, but I would definitely say that like it's elevated in the sense that I would have expected a lesser, well, I didn't even think about it as a lesser movie, but what my expectations were is like this idea of like breaking the system, and that just doesn't happen. Like it doesn't happen. And like I feel like a lesser film would have like done that and just like executed that and been like Sam Lowry's the hero, he's gonna find out what happened to Buttle, and we're just gonna move on from there, and they're gonna like break the chains, but that just simply doesn't happen. So we have to almost like accept this environment that's presented to us
that we're in,
and then specifically like this scenario that is like kind of funneling us from start to finish of the movie. But
I mean, the whole Buttle Tuttle like plot is like dropped halfway through the movie once he starts trying to pursue that girl that he sees in his dreams in real life. You forget like, oh wait, we were like this entire like thing started because of a mistake in the system by labeling Buttle instead of Tuttle.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
then,
once
like,
he gets that
receipt,
gone. Once he gets the receipt, the refund to Mrs. Buttle. I mean, that's pretty much it. And there's almost like a callousness to
him.
Yeah.
For sure.
I was trying to. Me and Mark were talking about this, and I don't necessarily want to say he's a selfish person, but he's definitely like, I'm just gonna pursue my dream, and like and I mean in a way he's like a product of that society where it's like you either just accept it and you just get sucked into the machine, or you try to like fly away as a superhero basically. But
and it's interesting, like at the start, and I mean obviously the scene transition is hilarious, but whenever like his mom invites him to this dinner with her friends, and the terrorist bombing happens and no one knows. That was just a funny like moment.
Nobody cares.
But but like near the end of the scene, he's like trying to get out of there because he's clearly awkward and he doesn't want the promotion, and he tells like his mother, I don't want any dreams. And then it transitions, and he goes, I don't have any dreams. And then it transitions to him dreaming. So like, and then so he seems like just the kind of person who just wants to like go with the flow, doesn't want anything better for himself, likes where he's at right now. And then, all of this, and then of course, as we know, his life is completely, his whole goal in life is completely altered once he sees that woman.
But I think the Tuttle, and then so Robert De Niro's character, is it Harry or Henry? What was it?
It's Harry.
But Tuttle.
Yeah, Tuttle.
And
Tuttle.
then Jill,
Tuttle,
who I think that's the name of the girl. Those two characters start to bring out this desire for him to like be better and for him to like change. Because if this might be far-fetched or like way too much of a stretch, but like at the very beginning of the movie when he's sitting with his mom and all the women getting all the cosmetics done and that bomb happens, he acts like it's not even there. But then halfway through the movie or close to the end, when that next bomb happens, he's suddenly checking in on everybody and asking everyone if they're okay. And I feel like that's showing that growth in him and trying to be better. And you see the same thing where the first good human he sees is Tuttle coming to help him and trying to help him better than the other AC heating control guys. And that starts to inspire like a desire, I think, for him to be more of a hero himself. And that dream starts to increase for him to like kind of step up more and be a better citizen, I guess, to other people. But that's what I saw in those two scenes, because it was the exact same thing, the bombing in the background. But in the second one, suddenly he is concerned with it.
Yeah, personally, I would say there's the characterization of him wanting to be a little bit better and trying to be better than his peers and colleagues for the most part is like, I would agree with you. I would say it's there from the start. I don't think he ever even comes close to reaching the hero status, and that's what I enjoy about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he just kind of wants to get by. Like right when he meets Michael Palin's character, Nick, Nick is like, oh, you got to move up. He's like, you're in a dead end job. You don't have to do anything. And he's like, yes, it's wonderful. I love it. Because he's just like, why would I pursue this bureaucratic climb? But once he has something, once it falls into his passion, which is this woman who's been appearing in his dreams, that's when he takes the job for information retrieval and all that, so, but I do think there's definitely like a theme of like what drives us, like what our passion is, like Tuttle's passion is like fixing AC for free, helping people out, so, well, and then, he's also, trying to make society better. He's kind of like the one note hero in the story, which is funny because it's like Robert De Niro always plays like complex characters.
Well,
I love it when he jumps off the zip line and he just goes into this hole. I just thought that was so funny. Just comes from nowhere and goes into nowhere.
It's great. Yeah. So
this movie has an interesting
to see him like that. Go ahead, Matthew.
This movie has kind of a running theme of, and I kind of picked this up with the dreams, especially of kind of escapism in a way for our hero character. I keep forgetting his name.
Sam Lowry.
Sam Lowry. Yeah. So Sam, because of course in these dreams that he's having, which are very like fantasy-like, he's basically an angel hero. He's flying around trying to save, the damsel in distress, basically. And I find it really funny that the things that are blocking his way are these giant like file cabinets or just stacks of file cabinets.
Pillars,
It's kind of like a sign of obviously the real life or the bureaucracy kind of getting in the way of his fantasies and his dreams.
Oh, he cut out.
Oh no,
he'll come
so
back.
The themes that run through with that, and did I go out?
You're
for a
good.
minute?
Yeah, you're back now though, but go ahead.
Yeah. Another thing too is that really fits well with the dystopia that we have, the setting that we have here. And I think it's really well done, mostly because there really isn't a central villain here. I mean, when you think about it, there is no like central antagonist to this story. It's just kind of this society where all these people are just basically doing their jobs and just casually going about their business, which kind of makes it more unsettling because there's nothing specific you can root against.
Right.
So it's almost, which is probably exactly how it would be. I mean, that's how 1984 was. There's no real villain in that book. It's just the system itself, the world itself.
Kind of like the nebulous central services or Big Brother, and if you're talking about 1984,
it captures that idea of like man versus society in a way really well, where it's just kind of like this, there really isn't a figure to go against. So I find that really interesting.
I think what's like, and what it makes it different than like, say, I don't know, like Mark, you mentioned it kind of reminded you of V for Vendetta, is that, well, for one, the humor. I don't think any like dystopian film captures it in such a humorous light, like where you're like laughing and then getting unsettled and then like laughing. But I don't know. I think if you like, I love the fact that like the world that the entire system is like expected to be this efficient system, but nothing works. Like I love that. I love how everything is just completely like on the brink of just falling apart. Like everything's being held together by duct tape and ducks, like literal ducks. So
yeah,
which is kind of too. This kind of goes with utopias in general too. Is like, and I'm talking about utopias, not dystopians, but like when you see and hear about like the attempted utopias of the world, they all just needed one little crack to be messed with, and then everything collapsed underneath it. Like Rome is such a prime example of that. But like all these worlds that we know of in the past, or these medieval worlds where people thought that they were at the height of perfection in a society, it's like once something breaks, everything goes down with it and it becomes history. And like with this world, they're supposed to be like so far ahead and stuff, but just one little thing and your house is on fire, or just one little thing and a bomb goes off, or just one little thing and your AC goes out. Oh, okay, well now you lost your apartment. Like, and I think that's kind of cool too, is like when humans try and strive for this perfection, everything just like is shit in reality, but we just try and pretend everything's fine.
Yeah. And I love like in the beginning of the movie where it starts off with a commercial of this guy talking about like, oh, is your vent or duct like in very poor shape? Well, here's this other better looking duck, and I thought that was kind of humorous until as the movie progresses, and every single like scene, there's ducks like everywhere, and it gave this like incredible sense of claustrophobia throughout the entire movie, and it's great to like, it's very representative of the main character constantly like. Even though he tries to act like satisfied that he doesn't want to move up, but he's always in like he's in like a ton of conflicts throughout the film, both like physically and just like an awkwardness that he constantly is having to go through.
That's a great point, because
being put in like a bunch of very like uncomfortable situations, like having to go confronting his mother about the promotion, or trying to just deliver some mail, and like the kids like incredibly mess with him.
Well, but like the claustrophobia is a great point, because like even like just the way it's shot captures that feeling of claustrophobia. Like we see a lot of shots from like the ground looking up at Sam, and we see like towering buildings like almost touching at the tips, or when they get in her truck and they're driving, we see the walls of ads, you know, they're just closed in, while we can see the other sides of the walls, but there's just wasteland out there.
It's just nothing. It's just nothing out there.
Or like when they're in that,
we put up.
Even when they're in that beautiful restaurant where, you know, the bomb goes off, even then there's just
they bring the wall in.
There's ducks
that's great. That's a great point, Mallory. They bring the wall and close them in, but like the people are all so close together, and the ducks are all hanging down, and like just it's great. But claustrophobia, that's definitely something that
I didn't notice that until you pointed it out.
Neither did I.
We need to, I hope someone has a plan to talk about Jill, because we have to talk about her character.
We can do that now. Go for it.
Yeah, go for it, Mallory.
I have so much to say about this character.
Go ahead, please.
This is such a cop-out. Just hear me out. I don't think she's real. I think she is a part of his imagination the entire time, because no one ever interacts with her authentically the entire film, and he is constantly hiding her in ways that are so aggressive and awkward that I'm like, it felt so intentional. So every time she's like, oh, I'll talk to them, he's like, no, and closes it.
What about when she like talks to the guy at the front desk, or the mechanics who couldn't have put the hole in her floor, though, you know?
How much does she talk to the guys with the mechanics?
Well, like remember they blow the hole through in the beginning scene, right? And then there's those mechanics afterwards who say, "Oh, don't worry, we'll fix the hole." And they just push the thing through, and
So, but he's not in that scene, so I'm kind of wondering if she's just a character, a face that's just there, and then he associates this real person that he's seen at some point. But like the part where he looks in the reflection and he sees her, and it's him, and then like I don't know. The whole chase, the second he realizes... Are you talking
about in like where he sees her in the broken glass?
Yes.
Well, I think that was just
their apartment.
I think that was just them like showing that, you know, she's above them. I think
it wasn't behind.
I kind of see where you're going, though.
But like then they get in the truck, and from the entire chase scene, no one ever interacts with her, including the scene where she goes to help the people in the bomb. He's the one helping them up.
I can agree with that, but I would also say that like that last act of the film that's where it starts to get super surreal anyways.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's like being surrounded by like a ton of enemies.
I could see that, like where you're going, like even before
and she's
we actually
the opposite
enter.
of him, and like comes off so confident and rebellious.
No,
and he thinks she's a terrorist, and he's so not that. Like he goes with the system because it's easy and it's simple, and like he doesn't have to go against what everyone like what the government does.
I think he is characterized a little bit as someone who likes to kind of read between the squeeze through. He's the one who does kind of like the unbureaucratic stuff for his boss Kurtzman, who's played by Ian Holm,
like going to Miss Buttle and stuff.
But remember he's like, I'll do this, and he's like, okay, you do that, when he's kind of like,
he's so funny.
Yeah, he's great.
Bilbo Baggins.
So I think he does have a bit of a rebellious side, but I think I do agree with like the complete opposites, and I'm not 100% sure, and I've watched the movie twice now, but I still don't really notice the turn when she realizes she does love him and care about, or at least care about him.
That seemed kind of, in a way,
and that's one of my issues with the film is
I don't
not
think that
feeling that connection.
I almost wonder if that ever happened, because
and that's what I'm saying. It kind of speaks to what you were saying,
right? The fantasy, because when he comes in, she now has the long, beautiful blonde hair, and you're supposed to assume she's wearing a wig, but it just didn't.
That also seemed jarring.
Just didn't fit. It seems so forced to me.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And like I feel like her having the different hair from his dream and reality is to show that like he doesn't have that reality. Like she is not his and never becomes his. And like, the scene where they're like,
well, I mean, she is taken away. So, I mean, that's partially true.
I was gonna say about the part whenever you think it's gonna end, and she makes that joke about necrophilia.
Such a good comment.
I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, that's where the movie was going to end.
But like, he showed, he's got like the thing, which could be fake, going with what you say, Mallory, the whole like picture, like you're dead, like Jill is dead, and he's trying to like show it to the guards as they're being like attacked. He's like, no, she's dead, and they take him instead. But doesn't Harry ask Sam about Jill? Like, doesn't he say like, what about Jill? And then like, I think
he doesn't give a response.
No, he doesn't. He just
jumps it, like as if she doesn't.
Yeah,
she's not. That's what I'm saying is like no one talks concretely about her.
It's
and
possible.
Even when he comes in and he goes up to the apartment, remember her apartment is empty when he goes up there. There's nothing in there. He looks over the window and she's down there. And when he's there and he sees a woman and he's like, wait, and Miss Buttle is just sitting there crying. Well, Miss Jill calls out to Miss Buttle from Sam's point of view, but Miss Buttle never responds or anything when Sam is there. And then he goes up to the apartment and it's empty. Yeah. And it seems like she's never really, I don't know. I just was like, it felt weird.
I would have to watch it again with like that in mind.
Theory. I didn't think about that.
I did. I mean, I would. At one point I started to think that maybe Tuttle was made up and stuff, but there's just too many interactions with other characters, and then we find out that like Tuttle was like a terrorist and everything. He's in the system, but I would have to watch it again with that in mind and see if I pick up on those similar things. I would probably just end up chalking it up to like the surrealist filmmaking.
Yeah, let's talk about the end for a little bit, because that's kind of the part. I think that's the part to me that was the most memorable. I'm so happy it didn't end in the bedroom scene where they just kind of like, I am so happy that didn't happen, because it didn't fit for me. I'm like, that doesn't, I don't know if that were. And then, everything, the movie just basically descends into madness.
Goes to shit.
Right.
It's like, and it's so perfect for me. Because of course he gets captured. He's taken to the interrogation room, which is this big giant, like,
it's in like the middle of a nuclear, whatever those are called,
like silos or whatever.
Not a nuclear reactor, but it's in like the middle of the silo, literally.
Yeah. And of course, what happens is, and I think the idea, and I think this is the case, when Jack gets shot by the terrorist, at that point, is that when he's dreaming?
I think so.
Yeah, because when he comes back, Jack is still alive. And they're like,
so he's snapped
gone inside
right
his own head or whatever.
Yeah. And so of course, the movie, and, you might not know at that point, you don't know if that's the case or not. Of course, what gave away for me was when Robert De Niro's character disintegrates into the papers, and I was like, oh, this is all
that's
fake.
when I picked
I
it
still
up.
didn't know at that point. Honestly,
Yeah.
I thought it was like part of the surrealism of the whole movie. So I really wasn't convinced that it was a dream yet until he was in the car and he was in the house part being tailed by Jill. I was like, oh, this is not real. That's when I figured it out. So good catch on it early, Matthew. I didn't realize it.
Yeah, and it kind of.
Oh, he's out again.
No. Oh, there he goes.
Well, and
There
it just
he
makes
is.
to me because. Okay. Oh, well, and I was gonna say, yeah, it made more sense to me because it didn't make a whole lot of sense that he would get broken out, but that's not as important. And of course, he wasn't broken out. But it kind of fit in for me too, because I was talking about like the escapist aspect of it earlier, where he's constantly escaping into these dreams, where he's a hero and he's fighting this, gigantic villain that's trying to kill him.
It's like a samurai.
Yeah, it's like a giant golden, which I love that design, by the way.
Yeah.
But he's trying to escape, and then at the end of the movie, he does escape into his own head. It's like the only thing he can do.
It's very bittersweet.
It's his only like coping mechanism that he has left.
Well, yeah, it's his way of escape. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like everything else was taken, so this is all he can do left, and it's just the last shot is just him smiling dumbly and just humming the Brazil song to himself. Yeah. And it's such a good.
Yeah.
Such a good ending.
What was before the dream happens? Jack is like we've seen the baby masks being worn by these
terrifying.
It's a terrifying mask. But we see them being worn by the creatures who are like in his dreams, like crawling along the ground, carrying or dragging Jill while she's in the cage. That seemed like I don't know how to interpret that, but what do y'all think? Like, why was he wearing like that mask in the interrogation room? I mean, he knew it was Jack whenever like Jack first started talking, or before Jack even started talking, he was like, Jack, like, don't do this. And kind of, I was like, I didn't understand like what the whole point of that was.
I think it was just like an aesthetic choice. It's kind of like Mallory said, it's kind of it's a creepy mask. And
I mean, he did like cover up the mic when he was like talking honestly to Sam, and then he took
Probably
and then
didn't want to get in trouble.
He removed the mic,
he
and
doesn't.
Then he was like,
Matthew's exactly right. He doesn't want to get in trouble with his bosses. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, when he first sees Jack too, you kind of notice in his body language when he sees when Jack sees Sam, he kind of pauses and then looks around and looks up like he's confused, and then he goes up and has to do his job, and of course he's pissed off at that point. But
he's pissed that it's Sam.
Yeah, right.
I think that with this whole part of the story where he's in that torture chair and everything's about to go to shit, and you start to wonder like, okay, wait, when did reality stop? It reminds me a lot of this Black Mirror episode, which is, I don't know if you all have watched a whole lot of that, but it's season 1 or 2, and you're supposed to go in and do a VR horror thing, and you go in and you overcome your fears in this haunted house, and so you get these horrible, violent, stories that you're confronted with, and you have to be the hero in them. And the story ends and he overcomes all of them, and the guy walks out with the doctor, and he's like a success story for the VR. And then it cuts to reality, and when the guy, before he even got in to the game, he slipped on water in the building, cracked his head, and died. And like he's now, it's not a success story, and that's actually before the story even started. He died. And that reminded me of this, where I was like, where did it go to shit for him? Like, where did he get pulled from reality and his mind was now a vegetable? And it makes me wonder if it's right when he's coming in, when Jack is coming in with that thing, Jack goes ahead and cooks his brain. And then, that's when Sam starts to think like he's in reality, and he escapes with Tuttle, this hero blows that he looked up to, blows up the building. Yeah, he escapes with the girl. But I always love stories where you have to like almost play it back and be like, wait, where did reality stop for him? Because it's hard to achieve that in like an original way, and I feel like they did it in such a good way where like it was seamless. You have to kind of think about, where did they pull him, and like what did they do to him, like to make him finally become a vegetable? And it's almost too like the fact that he's living his dream, literally the dream of being with this angel girl, away from the government, away from his mundane job, away from all of these things. I'm almost like, okay, so is this government, this authoritarian government, as bad as we're supposed to think it is, because he's living his dream and he doesn't know. So it's like, is that bad? Is that evil? Like, it's almost like, well, he's doing what he wants to do, and we're the spectators are the only ones who know the truth behind it. So that's always a good, like, I always think that that's an interesting question. Like, if it's a dream, is it wrong? You know?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't mean to like switch to a different movie, but like the similar thing is it's briefly touched on, but like in Inception, where the main character is taken down to these chambers where these people are living in their dreams for like 40 or 50 years. Obviously, you know, it doesn't really make much sense, but like, you know, you know, you're like, oh my gosh, like I can't, like not everything they're doing is like not real, and it's like, well, if their lives are already like pretty shitty enough, like, and they just want to like live in an escapism for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Kind of can't blame them for what they're doing. So in a sense, you know, it's like, it's going back to the ending of this movie. It's like what Mallory said, you know, it's like, is this a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's very bittersweet. It's very bittersweet.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think it just comes down to the fact that, I mean, they say it, he's gone inside his own head.
Yeah,
like that's what they say. They kind of the dream sequence ends, we cut back where we're
like this.
It's revealed that we're back in the in the torture room or whatever, and they're just like, oh, he's gone inside his own head, and you know, he's humming and
wheels him out.
Yeah, I think he's just I think like I think Matthew put it perfectly. I think he just kind of escaped into his dream world, because that's the only place where he's happy in this horrible, miserable world.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we're gonna, I would probably timestamp it when he gets captured and he's sat in the chair and they put the little thing on him, over his head. That's probably where, like, you could roughly guess where the transition starts. But so there is a version of this movie called the Love Conquers All version, where the studio mandated a 96-minute cut of Brazil, which is obviously like literally like almost half the length.
Yeah.
And the entire ending is what we thought it was going to be, like with Sam jumping into the car and racing off with Jill, and then they end up in their house and the music swells and we pull back and we see the grassy fields that they've escaped to, and the movie ends there. So there's no credits. There's no twist ending where Sam is still being tortured or anything. They wanted a version that presented Sam. The whole movie is, you could probably find it on YouTube, but the whole movie is just cut way differently. Sam is more characterized as a actual hero, as like a more, you know, feel good movie would present him as. They race to get Jill and Sam together. They cut out all the side stuff with his mom. They cut out a lot of the explosions and so it's very interesting that, like, I mean, what we're even talking about here is something that they like considered doing. And I mean, I think it only got syndication on TV, and so it never was into a theater or anything, but it's pretty.
Thank God.
I know.
Yeah.
I can't even
Sounds
imagine.
terrible.
I'm sure Terry was pissed about that. I can only imagine.
Well, and just very briefly, like, if you want to do some reading, like, this movie was a battle for Terry to get, like, well, I think he already had Final Cut, but Universal was the US distribution, so it struggled really hard to get US distribution. And Universal was just like, there was one guy in particular named Stan Steinhead, and he was the head of Universal at the time, I think. And he was just like, there's a much better movie in here where we can like make it much happier and it'll be more appealing. And basically what he was trying to do is just create something that would hopefully make more money. And it took literally the movie being presented at like an LA Film Festival and winning a whole bunch of awards and then it spreading by word of mouth literally in LA for Universal to finally say, okay, fine, let him have his release.
It's something easier to swallow if you do it that way, because what like Terry Gilliam does here is some balls on this dude, because the commentary alone, and of course I think this is what I focus on more because I grew up with the lens of a girl in American society. But like, I'm telling you, everything on the cosmetic side of things, that no one is allowed to talk about that, because one, Hollywood's the one who pushed for that from the very beginning with women like Marilyn Monroe, who were told they had to get she was one of the first people part of all these plastic surgeries. I mean, if you look at her before and afters in the 60s, 50s, 60s, her got completely transformed through all these surgeries and stuff. And she was just a product of a really shallow, disgusting industry, Hollywood, and they haven't changed at all. And you're not allowed to talk about that because, one, women buy into it and do it. Two, a lot of men like how they look after all the procedures. Yeah. And three, if you say anything about it, what's so interesting is you're called like judgmental and stuff for it, even though like the reality of it is so dangerous, and there's no other word to describe it but shallow. And so no one wants to watch anything about that. No one wants to, like, coming from a girl, like, it makes me uncomfortable seeing someone make commentary on like how surface level you can become when you start feeding that side of society and you start believing what society says about you. And like, for a person to make a movie and do dark comedy on that side of society, I mean, that's really like, I think that's really cool. It kind of shows me that like Terry does what he wants to do, and like he obviously wrote this because it's what he thinks and what he sees. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, he holds a very artistic integrity view on things and like preserving stuff.
I love that.
He's very much so that kind. But like in reference to like the movie and how the ending was going to be changed and everything, like that is what happened to the original cut of Blade Runner that was released in theaters, and that's why you can watch the theatrical cut that has the dumb Harrison Ford voiceover, and the movie ends with them escaping in a car in the middle of nowhere and like happy music.
I don't know that I've even seen that version.
Yeah, if you get the final cut, you should. The theatrical should be on there, but the final cut is what Ridley Scott originally intended, I guess. But the theatrical one has the happy ending, which is what they wanted to do with Brazil, but that's not what happened, thankfully. But
thank God.
But that's the Love Conquers All version is what it's called.
That's so interesting. And Maori, I think the point you brought up was really true about how Hollywood in particular is behind that sort of thing and behind
all
that
of
kind
it.
of
They're
industry.
behind all of it.
And so that, I'm sure they probably weren't comfortable with all of that in the movie. I'm sure they didn't want anybody talking about that. So that's a really
Yeah, based on the notes I read and the documentary I watched regarding like what they were saying on the producer side, I mean, a lot of them admitted, and this was from 1996, so they had 9 years of hindsight, but a lot of them admitted that they knew it was a good film, but it was going to be niche, and it was going to be for a specific group of people that would like the how artsy it was and stuff, but they just didn't see a money-making film, and they were right. It bombed, but and a lot of that may have to do with films like the theater syndication. Like they may not have just put much money around it. Like, but what they did put in, they barely made back. Like Universal barely made back anything. But I mean, so like I said, they had 9 years of hindsight. But for the most part, they spoke with like as the movie was like going to be a cult classic. It was going to be a artistic film. But yeah, I mean, it's just how it goes, I guess. He had success with a lot of his other movies like Time Bandits and 12 Monkeys. I think is his highest grossing movie of all time. I don't know about
it. Has to be because it's the most popular I know of.
12 Monkeys made like 130 million against like a $15 million budget. So
it's awesome.
Well. And going on top of the how the movie didn't do very well and in the box office. Did he was like I mean, obviously you got for Monty Python, it was like those five guys, who made up Monty Python. But he was like the kind of like the writer director behind it. Is that right?
I mean, he did the animation and he worked a lot. With the visual effects when he was with Python. Yeah.
Right, and
he was just as integral as all the other members for sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but like Monty Python Flying Circus, like that itself, like the show didn't do well in the United States back in the day either, did it?
Probably not,
because of like
it was UK, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was UK, but they did air some episodes.
It did get like, US syndication. Yeah, I mean, Dad
watched it when he was younger. And I think like that and some other movies that Terry Gilliam has done, like they didn't do very well. I think it's because of because of like how much he pokes fun at like all this stuff that we take for granted, and you know, people back in the day, I guess, didn't want to like see the world as like he's portraying it.
Well, yeah, and I think they're just not really like people pleasing movies. Like, I mean,
No.
clearly, like in
They rub you wrong.
yeah, like
Yeah,
like a director with I would hope a director with integrity would make something that he wants to make. He wants to make something with his voice, and this is him being heard. All of his movies have kind of dour endings and sad themes throughout. Like even like movies like Time Bandits, there's some dark segments in there and sad
I need
stuff
to see
about.
that.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So okay, we're chugging right along. This is good.
5 popcorn.
We'll we'll start 5 bags of popcorn, 2 bottles of
2
soda.
Hershey's Kisses for Valentine's Day.
Nice.
But so we'll start with Matthew. What are some issues we had? I mean, I know we kind of
yeah
talked here and there.
Yeah, so this might be my fault just because this happens to me sometimes when I watch films. But there were segments, especially when we get to some of the romantic bits, where it started to lull for me. I was kind of starting to zone out of the movie a bit in those segments, like all of the dystopian world building stuff, all of this, the characters. Oh.
What?
Did I go out? Okay.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
Sometimes you guys all freeze. So all of that stuff, all the world building, a lot of the character stuff, you know, the ending is fantastic. Beginning and ending are both really good. But there are a couple of parts near like the 3/4 mark of the movie and some of the romance stuff where it started to slow down for me. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting kind of bored. You know, I kind of want this to proceed. Now it all led to somewhere good, which I really appreciate. But that's about it. I mean, I really don't have any other issues with the movie. You know, nothing stuck out to me. You know, nothing was so. It's just some of the romantic bits for me were kind of slow.
Yeah, I literally agree. That's like my same complaint is once I was telling Mark, trying to kind of pinpoint where, like once he sees her when he's coming down the elevator and he's like, and he like sees her and she's at the desk, he gets her and he kind of chases her out to her car. And then they have like their little thing on the car. It kind of loses me for a bit there. And yeah, like I said, like I can't even, it frustrates me that I can't even remember where supposedly she falls for him. Cause I mean, obviously she does. But yeah, that's where I kind of start to be like, I was kind of just like, yeah, like this is nice. Like this is funny. Like there's good stuff happening there. Like I like when she like tries to kick him out of her truck. That's hilarious. Like all that stuff. But that is, it kind of lulls there for me. And then I think it starts to pick up again once he like deletes her out of the system and obviously the final act kicks in. But yeah, same thing, Matthew, literally.
I think for me, like, I don't know. Again, you know when a movie's really fresh and you're just like, and so you can't see anything bad about it. This is. I'm grateful y'all showed me this movie because I haven't seen a really good movie in a long time. Like it's been a minute. Probably Parasite, and we just rewatched that the other day, and it's so freaking good. But
it's a great movie.
Should talk about that one sometime.
I know, maybe we will.
Sure.
I think that the music was really good. The acting was the music was so.
Okay, yeah. Let's go and gush over that for a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, the music's
fantastic. My god! And the final song and like this triumphant music over something that's so not triumphant. That was like so unsettling. Like it's so uncomfortable.
I know,
like,
but
sometimes
and that speaks to what Matthew was saying. Like the whole like the dream sequence, like the ending in a way is triumphant. Like he has found the only escape he can in this super fucked up society. Living in his dreams because that's all he can have. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, I there were also scenes where like it was supposed to be funny, so they would do like this like the sound effects like at times were supposed to be like funny or like dingy, and it so was not funny to me. And I think that kind of depended on the person because Jake would look at me and like be laughing, but I was like at scenes where I was like, am I supposed to be laughing right now? Like when they bring the woman out and she's in a wheelchair now and her face is like I some people think it's funny.
I'm sorry. I laughed. I'm sorry.
But I was like just watching her, I was just like, and Jill's supposed to be pulling him around the corner and he's struggling to keep talking to the woman, but I was just looking at that and I was like, my skin, I was just like, oh my God. Like it's just, some people can't handle that kind of like, it's not violent, but you know what I mean? Like oozing
like body
bandages
horror
and
in a way.
stuff. Yeah, like
body horror
for sure.
Yeah, so there were times where the director was like, oh, this is supposed to be a really lighthearted moment. But at the same time, I was like, because the music and the sound, and I almost felt like there was supposed to be a laugh track, but I was like, good God, like this is so horrifying.
That goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where he's absolutely trying to be hilarious, but also like incredibly disturbing at the same time. I just think the term acid man is hilarious. Like when I see her, I just think about some doctor throwing acid on her to try to make her look younger.
Yeah.
Because that's like a real thing. Like there were like acid treatments, like they would throw acid on, you know, if you had a boil on your neck, they would throw acid on it, and then it would usually eat away way more than it needed to. But yeah, the music, Michael Kamen's the composer. He did stuff like he did the soundtrack for Lethal Weapon and Die Hard, and just he has a pretty huge track record. But as far as like orchestral, which is like Die Hard. Die Hard is definitely orchestral. But he worked with like Pink Floyd on developing like The Wall and The Final Cut.
That makes sense because you know I got Blade Runner vibes at times, and that I think of Pink Floyd listeners when I think of Blade Runner watchers, and so that makes sense to me. Is like when I think of men who like Pink Floyd and they like The Wall, I think of people who are like, oh, you like this dark sci-fi movie about
that's a good point.
You know, so the mood connects, and that I feel like they picked a really, really good composer for this.
And maybe you guys can help me think of another example, because me and Mark had like a 20-minute discussion the other night over this, but I love the way how they take this one 3.5-minute song and just like Michael Kamen takes it and then he just uses it and structures it in so many different ways to fit certain moods. Like there's like a darker, kind of creepier version of Brazil. There's a triumphant version of Brazil. There's kind of a romantic and a sad version. And like, is there another like film? Because I feel like there has to be a film example of someone taking like a piece of music and then just kind of reworking it.
Does La La Land not do that at all?
I don't know.
haven't seen that
It's been
movie.
so long since haven't seen La La Land in 5 years, but I don't really remember that.
With the song, they play it at times where they're super lonely and isolated. You know, the song.
They reincorporate that song, but there's other music, right?
Oh yeah, it's a musical.
But like this is just Brazil is the soundtrack, like, but just restructured in different ways.
What about Birdman? I mean, just the constant. I mean, I know it's just like a percussion beat on drums, but I feel like the same. It's that's like
just
the music.
Like that's just improv drumming, jazz drumming through like the whole thing, though. Well, it's not even improv. I mean, it probably was. Yeah,
I mean, there's not really a song for that movie because again, the only music in the song is just improv drumming. But I mean that, like, if you're gonna compare, like that would be like the music for the movie. It's just the percussion drums on it. For Birdman,
I could see a military movie, a war movie, where there's like supposed to be a patriotic moment of like this great stuff, and then there's a moment where the hero dies, and it's like the patriotic music. So like the winning and the losing, you could play a song like that for irony's sake, you know, like there are no winners. But I feel like that would be a really good Vietnam movie idea, is using a song the same way, you know, throughout.
There's definitely examples out there of like taking a song and then restructuring it or covering it in such a way to make it
I mentioned Indiana Jones does that, and
but there are still like separate songs in Indiana Jones.
Of course, but there are like
it is
variations.
Reincorporated. It's just I don't know that there's got to be. I feel like it's hit me before. I don't know that one song was taken and restructured like that,
and it almost makes you feel like unsettled when you hear a song that originally you were like, that was so sweet, and now you're like, fuck, he's dead and we're hearing this song again. Like,
and like the reason why Gilliam picked Brazil is like he talks about he was at some bay in England, I think, and basically there was like these factories behind him and he was on the beach looking out at the water, and he had like this vision of like a guy sitting there surrounded by this industrial stuff and looking out the water, and like this upbeat like South American song, kind of salsa song coming over the airwaves, and like him hearing it and being like, whoa. And that's kind of like what, Brazil, like that version I showed you is a retooling of that song from like 1971, but the original song is like from Spain, I think, and it's like a crazy samba, yeah, it's a samba song. But anyway, so I don't know, anybody else? I'm gonna shut up now because I've pretty much exhausted everything I wanted to say. But please, the floor is y'all's, and we'll just keep going until it's time to do ratings.
I guess I haven't talked about my criticisms yet, and I really only had one, and like Matthew was talking about his example, mine was again one of those, not really, it is more of like my experience of it, and not
Mark,
really
you're kind of out of focus.
Oh, sorry, is that better?
Well, tap your camera or something, adjust it, see if it fixes it.
Is that better-ish?
Nope.
No.
He's a blurry boy.
That's fine.
That's
just keep going. You're good.
We'll just pretend we're drunk.
Don't sweat it, Mark. Just keep going.
Okay, sorry about that.
This is a drunk
I'm fine on my screen, but
it may have been doing this the whole time, and I just now noticed it. But I just feel like it's standing out to me right now. But
yeah. So anyway, again, my criticism is very much my personal experience, and it was, there was like one there. I think there was like more than one scene, but there was like one particular scene where he sees the girl. He's like talking with Jack in the like the services area, and he sees on the TV, like behind Jack, the woman who he sees in his dreams, Jill. And at that moment, I was like, what the heck, what's going on here? I actually didn't piece together that like that woman was actually the woman in his dreams. And it wasn't until like after I had seen the movie and I was dwelling back on it that I realized that, oh, that's why he reacted that way. It was because of the woman in his dreams. And then there was like one or two more scenes like that where I was like, oh wait, this happened because of this. Like, so my only criticism is just I didn't get everything. Like it was hard for me to understand and like what exactly was happening on screen as I was watching it. But obviously that it gives it that rewatchability that, you know, when I watch it again, I'll definitely like understand more what's going on. That happens with a ton of movies. So
yeah,
I wouldn't really consider what I just said actual criticism in terms of like trying to understand the movie, because this is just my personal experience of it. But if I want to be a part of the criticism discussion, that would be what I would say about it. But other than that, I really have no other problems with this movie.
Sweet.
One of my criticisms is there wasn't enough De Niro. I'm obsessed with.
That's a fair criticism.
He's in a bit part. That's what it is. He's a bit part. He's not the main character.
I love him so much. Like in Goodfellas, I wish there was more of him in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Like every movie I see him in, I'm like, why is there not more De Niro? So like that's how I feel about it. But I think like I don't know, I feel like the writing was really good. The social political commentary was really good. I liked the idea that we can't really blame an antagonist because we contribute to the antagonism almost in society. And like we eventually buy in to whatever it is that we're being told by an authority. Like we can eventually just succumb to it and then contribute even more to create that dystopian world. And we have to do, I'm not oppressed, but like people have to do their part to stand up for what's right. And then not buy into whatever the society is like telling you, you know, and like anyone can do that. Like anyone can become a part of that. And I loved that about this story is like, we didn't really see a lot of the heroes of that society until the end when he had probably already been fucked up. Was like when, what was his name?
Tuttle
comes in with all of his friends and we're like, oh, there's more than one Tuttle.
It's all fantasy.
And Jill saves him from his mundane life. And
he's in the house he wanted.
Yeah. Like all of that. Like, you know, people can be that, but it's definitely very like minimal how many people are willing to stand against what the rest of the world is like telling you. And so I really like, that sounds cheesy, but I really like that.
No, I absolutely feel that. I believe that would probably be what Gilliam would want somebody to get out of it for sure.
Absolutely.
Man, I wish I could talk to him. But yeah, like that. I mean, that's what I would say. And I just like really, it's been a long time since I've seen a really, really good movie, and so I really enjoyed this one.
I'm glad. All right, Matthew, you got any last words?
This movie was beautifully depressing.
Yeah,
I would describe it.
That's a good way
I
of
don't
putting it.
describe a whole lot of movies that way. It's a hard tone to catch for me, and it's hard to kind of capture that emotion. But you know, Terry did it, and I really enjoyed this movie.
Yep, I was genuinely like smiling. Like I was like watching it with Shay, and I like after like 30 minutes, I was like, oh, my jaw's hurting from like smiling and laughing. Because it's just so, man, honestly, I feel like we've barely even scratched the surface. We could probably talk about this movie for like another 2 hours because there's just so much to. Like, I mean, I want to just I want to just talk about like the scene where we first see where he works and like how they're watching Casablanca and Ian, I know we briefly talked about Ian Holm, but there's just so much, and that's just like 5 minutes, out of a 220-minute movie, or 132-minute movie, not 222-minute movie. But okay, great. Well, let's go.
Time.
Yeah, we'll start from youngest to oldest as we always do. Matthew, out of 10. Mallory, you don't have to give a rating, but you can. I keep track of it on a little Google Docs, but I always put my stuff on IMDb anyways. So we'll include you for this one. So Matthew, out of 10.
This is really tough. This is really, really tough for me because there's only 2 grades and I'm going to give it. I think, oh gosh, because I don't know. I'm going to give it a 9.5.
9.5, 9.5.
Yes,
okay.
9.5.
Okay. All right.
The 0.5 barely reduced just because it lulled a little bit, just for a little bit, a couple points here and there. But for the most part, I absolutely love this movie.
Mal.
I don't do this very often, but
you don't have
I'm gonna go with a 9.
Okay.
Right now with it fresh, and my 9s are like Good Time, Blade Runner,
right?
Revenant.
I gave Good
Birdman's
Time
up there. Yeah, so those are all my 9s, and like it's just like, oh, Goodfellas isn't. Departed, like all those are my 9s. So like right now, how I'm feeling about it, like it's the feeling where you want to show all the people you respect this movie.
What would be
so like that's
what would be a 10 for you? If Goodfellas is a 9, I'm curious.
I don't know that I have one because
Really?
only because after a long time I can eventually find something that I'm like, about it. And then when I watch it, I like attach to it. And I'm like, I attach to the thing I don't like about it. And I used to give 10s, but like time always ruins it for me. So like 3 years after Tree of Life, I look back and I'm like, it's not a 10, it's like an 8.5, So like that's probably the movie that's aged the best for me is Blade Runner.
Okay.
And
the first one, what do you like more, the first or the second one? Because you're giving the first one a 9.
They're both I give the second one a 9 or an 8.5. Like I like the first one so much because I love his relationship, and I love those, except for you know why it's not a 10? Because of the slightly rapey scene at the end of the movie. That's why it's not a 10.
Okay.
Oh, when he closes, I know what you're talking about.
I saw that recently and I was like,
it's a little questionable.
Let her go. But
I definitely like the second one more than the first one.
I think the second one is the one that I've showed more people because I think it's more digestible. But also, I'm a huge Ryan Gosling fan. The callback to someone remind me of his name, not Han Solo.
Harrison Ford.
What is his? Okay, when he comes back, it's amazing. Everything with his daughter, it's amazing. Like that is amazing. Anyway, we're not talking about that right now. That's another day.
No, okay.
But I do think that like those are like my 9s, close to 10s movies. And so this right now is a 9 because I don't feel anything about it that makes me feel like, oh. So
fair enough.
I thought it was really freaking good.
Okay.
Great. All right. Mark.
I'm going to give it a 10.
Oh wow.
Okay.
10 out of 10. Nice.
Yeah. Mainly because like as we're talking about it and I'm like thinking back on it, even though the quote unquote criticism I had about it, I'm like, if it desires me to watch it more, then like there's no then like that's the sign of a good movie.
Rewatchability is definitely a
and
big thing for me too.
And it's just like I think back on like every scene that I've watched. There's not a single one that I can't just like smile about. Even the the depressing ones. I'm like, yeah, that was a good scene. That was a good scene. So I can't think of anything I didn't like about this movie. So yeah, I'll give it a 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
the humor is definitely, I'd say pretty unique overall. So I can see why people would watch this and just be like, this is dumb. Like I can honestly understand that and respect it. But just like dumb shit like Robert De Niro trying to like aim it, he's like holding his gun, and then like we get like the reverse shot of him, and he's holding the gun with those dumb water goggle glasses on. It's like, how are you gonna hit anything wearing those? Or like when someone
he throws the gun at him, he's like,
or just we didn't even talk about the scene with like Bob Hoskins and the guys with the super long bills on their hats.
Yeah.
We didn't even
Jake talked about that too.
I know. Oh my god. Like and then of course
I don't remember that scene very well.
It's weird that Bob Hoskins is in that scene.
The maintenance
and then he would later
long
go on
heads.
to be Mario in the Super Mario Bros. Movie as a maintenance guy.
Are you serious?
In a dystopian future. It's very weird.
Oh my
gosh. But like you can watch the Super Mario Bros. Movie now and like see clear influence from Brazil. Brazil inspired like an entire decades worth of our much subpar dystopian films compared to Brazil. Like it definitely started a whole section of films of people wanting to kind of like ape off that style. But yeah, no, there's just so much. The humor is just, but it is kind of specific. Like that guy, Bob Hoskins' buddy, just repeats everything he says, but
yeah,
like,
it's just so silly,
sir, or something,
Yeah.
So anyway, 9 out of 10 for me.
Nice.
It just doesn't grab me enough through the whole movie, and once they're united, it just kind of becomes this like kind of a race to the finish in a way, and that there's not a whole lot that holds me there once he's like in her car and then they're like running around doing stuff. All the stuff like Matthew said, like all the world building stuff is great because it's entertaining and it's hilarious and also sad. But okay, well, that about sums us up. Okay, yeah, this is the 6th movie. And now we're starting the 7th, which makes Matthew. You are our guy. Last time you picked the wonderful, unbeatable Avatar. Are you gonna?
No, you did not.
Which
Yes,
I
did.
which I gave a 4 out of 10.
Is that the
And I gave a
James Cameron
5.
one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
It was great. It was so great. It was probably one of our best discussions because we had so much to say about it.
Yeah,
and,
we did.
I think I went on like a 30-minute rant on how it could be an hour shorter. So
You did, yeah.
Because it could be.
Yeah. So Matthew, do you have a selection for us?
Okay.
Avatar: Last Airbender.
So,
yeah.
And
I
then
agree.
It was
Avatar 2.
fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. When I want
And
to.
Mallory, you're more than welcome to watch the movie too, but
yeah.
I think the next video will just be us 3 because it's a guest thing. It's a guest
boys
thing.
club.
Well, Mallory,
I'm gonna
I'm
try
gonna
to
say
get
this.
Dad on here and
Mal,
like,
you're not gonna miss very
Candace
much.
and Erica. So
I don't think you're gonna miss much. So I wanted to explain to you guys the thought process I went through.
did you pick like a shit movie, like a really shit movie?
Okay,
oh my
so
God.
I was thinking, I was like, okay, there's a lot of great movies we can watch, is what I told myself. And I made this like entire list, like a bunch of movies. I'm not going to say any of them because I want to save them. But it's like, okay, these are all great movies. And then I thought of one movie and I'm like, wait a minute, that movie's terrible, isn't it? I haven't seen it in like 15 years.
Oh my gosh.
It's considered, it's the first animated movie we're going to do. It's considered DreamWorks' worst movie of all time. The movie I'm picking is Shark Tale. Starring Smith.
Never mind. I don't want to be a part of this.
All right, Mallory, there you go. You get it out. Shark Tale. Is that
starring Will Smith?
Well, yeah, and Robert De Niro's in it. No,
Martin Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese's in it.
For some reason.
Mercy. Okay, so next, well, we'll skip a week because we finally got back on track, and
we can skip this week. We'll do next Friday.
I got to dread this movie for 2 weeks now. Great.
Oh yeah, we'll go and just shoot for next Thursday since we technically did this week.
Yeah.
But
you know what's a 10 for me? Maybe
What?
Right.
Okay.
Sorry,
Shark
I just
Tale?
thought of it.
Oh, go ahead.
Is it Shark Tale?
Extremely
Shark
basic
Tale.
of me, like so basic. But I've watched this movie probably 100 times because there was one year in college where I watched it every day for a week.
I want to try to guess, but keep going.
It's basic. This isn't artsy of me at all, and Will's not gonna like it because he's been ranting about the director to me recently.
Really?
Oh boy.
It's not,
It's
not a Tarantino movie, is it?
No.
Oh.
It's The Dark Knight. I think that movie is
That's a great
almost
movie.
perfect.
A good
Because I was
movie.
It's like the
recently
one
thinking
Nolan
about-
movie I'll watch more than 5 times, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I was sitting here and I was like, did I like Dark Knight? And then I was like, oh no, because there's that really cheesy scene where they break his back and he's up down there in the well. I was like, wait, no, that's Dark Knight Rises,
Wrong
which
one.
is so much worse. And so that might be perfect because I've seen it 1,000 times, and maybe the only cringe part about it can sometimes be Two-Face. Every now and then, I'm like, wow, you're you're okay, but. Like Joker, Heath Ledger's just perfect.
I'll give you
Anyway.
that. I'll give you that.
Sorry, that was random, but I was
I don't really
about
like
it.
Maggie Gyllenhaal that much in that movie.
Oh,
Though.
I love her.
Really? Okay, I like her as an actress. I think she's great, but I think she's kind of.
Well, I think Christian Bale stole the show.
That's a good point, and I wonder if well, here, hold on. Well, we can keep talking, but I'm gonna go ahead and end the recording. So
yeah.
say bye everybody.
Bye to our 5
Bye,
minutes.
deuces.
How do I stop the recording? Okay.